Hi, I'm Dave Bundy, editor of the Lincoln Journal-Star, and we're joined today with Taylor Wyatt, who is a candidate in District 1 for the Lincoln City Council. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. First off, we'll have our other edit board member on here introduce himself. So, Mike.
Hi, we've met before, but I'm Mike James. I'm a newest editorial board member and just a community member.
Again, you say that just a community member. There's no one more important than community members. So, all right, well, Taylor, we are grateful that you're spending 30 minutes with us this morning. And I'm going to ask a few questions and we're going to shut up and let you talk. So first is a question to sort of introduce you to viewers. Why do you want this office? And then tell us about experiences and attributes that make you well suited for serving on the city council.
You bet. I can point to multiple things as far as why do I want this office. I'm born and raised Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm born and raised Northeast Lincoln, Nebraska. The only time I lived outside of the district is when I was at the University of Nebraska, and I just lived, I guess it would be Northwest District in rentals. And then I moved back into the Havelock area into a rental. And then I ended up buying my parents' home before I sold that and bought a new home and still in Northeast Lincoln. So got a lot of pride for the area. My wife is from Charlotte, North Carolina. Love my wife to death. She's got a lot of family in Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia. We've had plenty of opportunities to leave, but we've chosen to stay here. It's affordable. There's great opportunity. It's safe. All those things combined make it a wonderful place to raise a family. We got 2 young kids, 6 and 3. And we want them to feel the same way about it. We want them to have the same opportunities. And I fear we're losing some of that, letting some of that slip away. The safety aspect I'm concerned about, the affordability for sure I'm concerned about, and those things connect directly to opportunities. So those are things that I'm concerned about, not only for myself, but for my kids, and then the viability of staying here. And if that's concerned of mine, then it's definitely a concern of people considering moving here and businesses that are trying to attract talent. As far as my experience goes, I started as a public educator. I spent 5 years in education out at Waverly, had a great time out there, helped start up a baseball program, coached a lot of teams. I now sit on the Waverly Legion baseball board, handling those issues that arise with that, including budgeting. The last 3 to 4 years, I worked as political affairs director for Home Builders Association. And I'm a full-time realtor now. So I've gotten to see a lot of the affordability and development issues firsthand. One of my absolute favorite things to do is to be out and involved with the community. I talk to a lot of business owners, big and small, and hear a lot of similar concerns. There's an issue in our city about being collaborative with business and developers, and that directly, like I said before, equates to opportunities for people. So those are my forefront concerns: safety, affordability, opportunity, business friendly. Those are the things on my mind that have me running.
All right. Well, I can say as a former baseball parent myself, Taylor, if you've handled baseball parents, you got everything you need to serve on the city council.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun out there. I'll tell you, my first year, we won 3 games, and that's on about a 60-game schedule. But my last year, we walked off the field with the state championship trophy. So we came a long way on that, and I know they're doing great things. I don't think they're going to get to play today on what's supposed to be their opening day, but
yeah, it doesn't look like it. All right. Yeah. Next question for you. What are the biggest issues specifically facing your district? And then what do you see as the biggest issues facing the city as a whole?
Yeah, I'll talk about safety first. There's times that we only have 1 or 2 patrolmen in our district, and it's because of numbers. We have a lot of very good police officers and good things going on there. It's not the people per se, it's attracting talent and attracting people that would want that job. So we need to be able to put together a good package that's attractive for folks, and we need to be able to support those people so that we can retain them. That's an issue. Affordability is another issue. There's a lot of different codes that go to both new construction and rehab type stuff for houses, or I don't want to call them flips, but home improvement stuff that is directly affected by votes of the city council that make it more expensive and make it whether or not it makes sense. So those are two big issues, and both of those things are going to drive business development and being welcoming for business. And we could use a lift, and everything seems to be going south. The gateway, in my opinion, all due respect to Beatrice in that area, the gateway to Lincoln comes from Omaha, and that's us. That's where people come into town. So there's a lot of business opportunity there. We need to make it developable and welcoming to those folks.
All right. Well, you sort of jumped all over a number of our questions here. So, but perhaps you can go into some more detail when we get to them. And the next one you already sort of touched on. Describe your solutions to the affordable housing shortage and what they're kind of calling that missing middle housing.
Yeah, definitely missing middle housing right now. You can look at the National Home Builders Association. They use Lincoln and Omaha as data points for their research as far as this is concerned. Median housing in Lincoln versus Omaha is literally $150,000 difference. There's only 8% of folks in Lincoln that, based off of median income and median housing costs, can afford it. That's way too small of a number. Now go to Omaha. They have the same state code, same state regulations, and they've managed to bring those numbers different. I believe they're around 18% can afford it. And the goal, you'd want to be at least at around 30%. So it's not like Omaha's breaking records, but it's not exactly the best of times out there. So they're definitely doing better than we are. And they're $150,000 cheaper on median housing. That is something that is directly correlated to city council and mayoral decisions leading our city. I used this example just talking to somebody the other day too. It's not something that you're just going to be able to flip a switch and fix. If you've got a couple and they go to the doctor one year and say, hey, you know what, you need to lose 20, 30 pounds, both of you. And one of them says, hey, I'm all in. And the other one says, I'm not. That person that's all in just significantly lost chances of success. That's number one. So we all got to be on the same page of doing it. The other thing is, if you try to do it in a week, you're going to get really discouraged. It's not going to work out. It's going to come with consistent, good decisions that are based off of it, because every single one of these things is like, hey, it's only $100 here, $250 there. On a $400,000 house, that's nothing, but it adds up very quickly. For every $1,000 that you add to a house, there's another 70 families that are locked out of buying that house. So that's significant. Every single one of those decisions over time.
All right. We have an editorial board member who's not with us, but you and she speak the same language. So that's Robin Eshelman.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. You'd believe that, wouldn't you?
I would believe that. Yeah.
All right. So next question. Lincoln Bold has sort of renewed the discussion of tax increment financing. How do you think TIF ought to be used? Is it being used correctly by the city? Is it being overused? What are your thoughts?
I tend to lean towards overuse in general. Each situation's different. But each time you use TIF, you got to understand that you're financing on the back of the people. But there is a long-term gain to it. So there's a place for it. But I think you need to be careful with it. And there's gotta be some equity with how you're deciding to use it. I know there's folks in town, right or wrong, that oftentimes believe that it's a slighted slate when you go in to ask for it. So there needs to be a more productive plan on how it's being utilized, and pretty clear cut rules or guidelines that are followed for it.
All right. What does Lincoln need to do to attract people and fill these vacant jobs and kind of keep this development cycle going?
I'll go back to the housing issue. If it takes, the number I didn't share with you yet is 50,000. That's the household income that gap between Lincoln and Omaha to afford that home. So if you have to pay somebody 50,000 more in Lincoln than Omaha to achieve that kind of well-rounded and attractive lifestyle, where are the businesses going to go to hire those people? They're going to go to Omaha for just one example, because they can pay them $50,000 less for a better lifestyle when it comes to that. So I think that's such a big issue. And then that goes directly, how do we attract more officers, which is going to make it safer. So a safer community is going to be more attractive to those folks too. So we can't do anything about the weather. And vastly, our weather really, like I said, my wife being from Carolina, our weather's not that bad. Everybody has some bad days. I can confirm that. But having said that, the core piece that people want is they want a good, safe lifestyle that they can afford. And if we're outpricing ourselves compared to similar and neighboring communities, we're gonna miss out.
All right, well, you kind of touched on this next question a little bit, even with that last answer, but police issues have been, have been in the news, both staffing, as you mentioned, there have been pay increases to make us more competitive with Omaha. There's also been questions about, the climate in the police department and what role that might have in recruiting issues, and also what role that has in retaining officers. So what concerns you about the police situation, and what solutions would you like to be a part of as far as fixing the police department to the extent you think it needs fixing?
I'm concerned we're draining the good folks we have, and we're not providing an attractive product, for lack of a better way to put it, to come to. So the combination of those, it goes to housing, it goes to support, it goes to good leadership in the office. It's a tough job. It's a thankless job. And we as a community need to rally behind them. We have leadership that does that. I mean, ideally you'd know the person that's patrolling your neighborhood and that's around. You'd know their name in a positive way. So would your kids. But that requires a large number of officers to be able to get there. And yes, that comes with an expense, but there's other things you can do without having to drill the budget. And that goes, I sound like a broken record, I understand that, but that goes to having affordable housing and good leadership that's going to support you in rough situations. I can't help but go back to the riots that we had and the lack of support that they received. That is not going to make an attractive environment. That's one issue. And then we've already talked about the housing stuff. So they need to have that on a day-to-day basis, because it is a tough job. I know when I got out of education, that was one of my wish list jobs as far as what I was thinking about doing. My wife gave me a very hard no on that. So I've looked at it closely. My uncle, he just actually passed away last week, but he spent 35 years with the police department, and we used to talk about it all the time. He saw some very rough things and put himself out there, but he was described to me by multiple current officers that were at the funeral or at some of those events as just such a kind-hearted guy that just knew everybody. And we need to get back to that. And I know it broke his heart to see what was happening and the pressure being put on officers in the current climate. And we can control that as a community. We can't control the nationwide narrative, but Lincoln can be the beacon on the hill, and we can control that here locally.
All right. Well, Taylor, we have flown through these questions, and I just have one more. But yeah, Mike, do you have anything?
Feel free, come at me, Mike.
I don't. I don't this time. You're doing great.
That means Taylor's been on point. So the last question, Taylor, is an open-ended one that you may have answered for us before, but what didn't we ask you about that you would like to address, or what point would you like to, amplify? What else should we know about you?
Well, I'd like to amplify just my desire to stay here in Lincoln and be a part of this community. I'm not a politician at heart. I was pushed to do this by members of the business community, the building community, and I've gotten a lot of text messages of support from the teaching community, that connections that I've had through that. So that's a great thing. But I guess I bring that up to say I'm here for this particular job. 4 years ago, I was asked, "Hey, will you fill your full term if you're elected?" I said yes, and I'm here asking for the same job. I can't help but point out that my opponent and the current seat holder said yes to the same thing in that room with you guys. And first chance that came around to run for a quote higher office, that's where we're. So I think loyalty and being on point and caring about this particular job is there. The other thing that I think is important to know is I want to talk to people and I want to pick up my phone. There is no business too big, small that I don't want to talk to. I've learned so much from the builders as far as what different things that affect the prices of housing and what ties their hands on certain things and makes it tough, that I would have never known before. I just would have always asked the same questions that a lot of the community asked, but now I have some answers to those as far as how those can be affected. I guess my message is my phone is on. This is the job that I would like. It is not a political career that I'm planning on trying to climb a ladder as fast as I can or anything like that. It's a Lincoln career, not a political career. So I hope to be a part of it. I hope to serve. And those are the things I think are important to know.
All right. Well, Taylor, thank you very much for your time today. Thanks for the answers to our questions, and we wish you the best with your campaign.
Sounds good. Do you guys have a timeline of anything or a way I should be following up with you on anything?
Well, you'll hear separately from the newsroom about information for our voters guide. You probably already have seen that. The timeline for the endorsements, and you don't need to do anything else at this point. We'll be discussing them kind of in a clump when we have a number of the interviews done, and we try to get those in as early as possible because we want to get our endorsement in so that readers can get in the conversation with letters to the editor and feedback like that. So I've weaseled out of the answer for you, except to say we want to get stuff in as quick as we can.
That's all right. Hey, I appreciate your guys' time and good to see you, Mike. It's been a bit.
All right. Thanks a bunch, Taylor.
Yep. Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Thank you.